Hey there, grammar enthusiasts! Welcome to another exciting English grammar lesson. Today, we're diving into the mysterious world of passive voice. Don't worry, it's not as intimidating as it sounds. In this video, I'm going to unravel the basics of passive voice, how to form them, when exactly to use them. We'll also look into some disadvantages if you use passive voice inappropriately. And lastly, I'll suggest some strategies to tackle these drawbacks. So grab your favorite coffee, sit back, and let's unravel the secrets of the passive voice together. Understanding passive voice. Alright, let's start with the basics. What exactly is passive voice? Well, it's when the subject of a sentence receives the action rather than performing it. In other words, the focus is on what is being done rather than who is doing it. Pretty cool, right? To form a sentence in passive voice, we switch the positions of the subject and the object and use a form of the verb to be along with the past participle of the main verb. How to form passive voice? Let's get our hands dirty here and learn how to form passive voice for different tenses. We'll tackle the simple present, simple past, present continuous, and more. Don't worry, I promise it's easier than untangling headphone cables. In a simple present tense, we usually use is, am, are as the helping verb, followed by the past participle of the main verb. Let's look at this active voice sentence. John writes a letter. To transform it into passive voice, we switch the subject and object positions and use the appropriate form of the verb to be. So it becomes a letter is written by John. See how the focus shifts to the letter being written? Moving on to the simple past tense. We use was or were plus the past participle of the main verb to form passive voice in past tense. Let's take the active voice sentence. They built a house. To change it into passive voice, we once again swap the subject and object and use the correct form of the verb to be. It becomes a house was built by them. Notice how the attention shifts to the action of building the house. Now, let's tackle the present continuous tense. We use am being, is being, or are being, followed by the past participle of the main verb. Imagine the active voice sentence. Sarah is baking a cake. To form the passive voice, we invert the subject and object and add the appropriate form of to be. So it transforms into a cake is being baked by Sarah. The focus is now on the cake being baked rather than Sarah doing the baking. We can also apply the same principles to other tenses, like the past continuous. Consider the active voice sentence. We were painting the walls. In passive voice, it becomes the walls were being painted by us. Here, the walls become the focus as they're being painted. Now, let's move on to the perfect tenses. First of all, present perfect tense. We use has been, have been, plus the past participle of the main verb to form passive voice. Take the active sentence. She has completed the assignment. By transforming it into passive voice, we get the assignment has been completed by her. The spotlight shifts to the completed assignment. Similarly, in the past perfect tense, we can convert the active voice sentence they had prepared the presentation into passive voice as the presentation has been prepared by them. The emphasis now lies on the prepared presentation. Finally, in the simple future tense, we use will be plus the past participle of the main verb. For example, the active voice sentence, we will send the documents. Change it to passive voice, we get the documents will be sent by us. When to use passive voice? Now that we know how to form passive voice for different tenses, let's dive deeper into when it should be used. That's $1 million question. When should we whip out the passive voice card? And when should we stick to the active voice? Well, there are times when passive voice is preferred. For example, in scientific or academic writing, passive voice is often used to highlight and present information without explicitly assigning it to a particular person or entity. Now, let's explore some situations where passive voice is preferred over active voice. Number 1, reporting research findings. In scientific writing, the focus is often on the procedure and outcomes rather than the individuals involved. Passive voice allows for a more impersonal and objective presentation of research findings. Number 2, describing procedures. When describing procedures or instructions, passive voice can be used to provide a general guideline without specifying who performs each step. It allows the readers to focus on the actions rather than the individuals involved. Number 3, discussing general facts or principles. Passive voice is often employed when stating established facts or principles, as it shifts the focus to the information itself rather than the individuals or researchers who established it. Number 4, maintaining authorial objectivity. In academic writing, particularly in research papers, passive voice is used to maintain objectivity and focus on the findings rather than the researcher's personal involvement. In these cases, the passive voice helps to keep the focus on the information rather than the person performing the action. It adds a touch of objectivity and formality to the writing. Plus, it can make you sound like a bona fide smarty pants. Remember, these are just a few examples of when passive voice is preferred. It's essential to consider the specific context, purpose, and style of your writing to determine whether you should use active voice or passive voice. By using passive voice strategically in your writing, you can convey information objectively, maintain focus on the subject matter, and stick to the styles and conventions of formal writings. Disadvantages of using passive voice. Alright, let's address the elephant in the room. While passive voice has its perks, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. Inappropriate use of passive voice can make your writing sound a bit impersonal and indirect. We don't want our readers snoozing off, do we? Here are 4 disadvantages. Number 1, lack of clarity. Take a look at these 2 sentences. The subject of the sentence becomes less prominent in passive voice, making it difficult for readers to identify the doer of the action. Number 2, wordiness. Passive voice tends to be more wordy than active voice, as it requires the inclusion of auxiliary verbs and the past participle form of the main verb. This can make your writing appear too wordy and less concise. Number 3, lack of accountability. Passive voice can sometimes mask responsibility or accountability. By omitting the doer of the action, it becomes challenging to identify who is responsible for a particular action or decision. Number 4, reduced engagement. Using passive voice excessively can lead to a lack of engagement with your readers. Active voice, on the other hand, is more direct and engaging, creating a sense of involvement and connection. That's why it's important to strike a balance and choose the active voice when it suits the situation. Active voice brings clarity, directness, and a punch of energy to your writing. It's like adding a splash of color to a painting. Suggestions to tackle the disadvantages. Here are some tricks to help you tackle the disadvantages of passive voice. The key is finding the right balance. Use the active voice when you want to emphasize the doer. Add a personal touch, or keep your readers engaged. However, when you need to put the spotlight on the action, maintain objectivity, or follow academic conventions, then passive voice is your friend at that time. Remember, it's all about using the right tool for the job. And there you have it, our journey through the realm of passive voice. We've covered the basics, learned how to form it, discussed when to use it, and even tackled its drawbacks. You're now armed with the knowledge to use passive voice like a grammar specialist. So moving forward, practice and experiment with passive voice in your writing. Keep the balance, add that touch of elegance when needed, and let your words shine. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up. Feel free to leave your comments and questions down below. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, remember, mastering grammar is like having a secret power. So keep learning, keep exploring, and keep using your newfound knowledge to conquer the English language. I'll see you next time. Bye!